What's going on, boxing fans? Let's talk about how Manny Pacquiao can beat Mario Barrios, because this is coming from a Manny Pacquiao fan, diehard Pacquiao fan. Obviously, I'm Filipino, ride for Pacquiao. I need him to pull off the win. So let's get into how he can ultimately get it done. How does he beat a guy that's taller than him, younger than him, and has the reach advantage over him? And I think it's all about Manny Pacquiao and whether or not his legs are going to be there. It's going to be the legs and the stamina. We saw in the Ugas fight, he was able to compete. It wasn't like he was outclassed against Ugas, but ultimately his body wasn't allowing him to do what he wanted in that fight. You know, up until like the 6th or 7th round, Pacquiao was doing great. You know, his combinations were catching Ugas off guard. You know, Ugas was still the more youthful and a little bit stronger fighter, but Pacquiao was holding his own in that fight until his legs started to give him problems. You could see he couldn't, get to his spots and land his combinations as a result of his legs not, cooperating with him, because ultimately Pacquiao's older now. He's not 25, he's not 28, 30, even 40, where he beat Keith Thurman. That was even a more different version and a special version of Pacquiao that, he turned back the clock and didn't really look 40 against Keith Thurman. But, at 46, you can't help but think, how is he going to do it? How is he going to pull it off this time against a guy who, like I said, is much bigger than him and, much taller, and he has the reach, against Pacquiao, that advantage. So I feel like the biggest thing that Pacquiao can do is to ensure that, his legs don't lock up on him the same way that he did against Mario Barrios, because that was the primary reason why Pacquiao couldn't beat Ugas, is because his legs weren't working properly. His legs weren't, giving him what he needed in the last rounds, where Barrios, Ugas, eventually took control of the fight and ended up winning that decision. But Pacquiao still, in my opinion, he has what it takes to beat a guy like Mario Barrios. It's all about, like what I said, will the age prevent him from executing his game plan? Will the age prevent him from allowing him to use that speed to land a big shot on Mario Barrios? Because the plan is there. Barrios is a very, I don't want to say a weak fighter, but you can hurt him. Like, you can hurt Mario Barrios, and I think Pacquiao can really do that. Whenever you watch Mario Barrios, his face is always beat up. Even in his best wins, you can see that he gets beat up in the face. His face swells easily. So that's something that Pacquiao definitely has to target. Try to hit him, early in the fight and make it difficult for him to deal with. Maybe you could stop him if you step on the gas immediately. That's something that, Pacquiao can definitely do. And obviously that Pacquiao left hand is going to be there. Barrios is always, in that center line, doesn't move his head too much. He's a warrior. He likes to fight. It's not like he has a lot of head movement. He has a decent guard, but I feel like if Pacquiao hits Barrios to the body, brings those hands a little bit lower, that'll open up a headshot. And, Pacquiao loves that little lean to the right, and he throws that left hand. I think that's how, he could really hurt Barrios. He has to really, use that head movement, look young in there, and allow his feet to get in range, and then ultimately lean to the right like he always does, and land that solid left hand that Pacquiao loves so much. And I think that's how he could, ultimately beat a guy like Mario Barrios. And not only beat him, I think he could really hurt Barrios in this fight, but it's all about, like what I said, the age. The age is what concerns me the most. It's not any other 46-year-old retired boxer. We're talking about Manny Pacquiao. So when people are talking about how does he look so fast even in the training footage, and I know training footage doesn't matter, but come on, this is Manny Pacquiao we're talking about. It's not any other guy out there. This guy's one of one. He's a legend. He's considered one of the best fighters of all time. So it's no surprise that, he's still as fast as he is, but it's all about fight night. He has to execute a game plan against a guy who is, much younger than him and, much bigger than him. It's a difficult stylistic matchup, but Barrios can definitely be beat by Pacquiao, that's for sure. But, if Pacquiao isn't able to keep up with Barrios, it's going to be hard for, Barrios to lose this fight. There's also the possibility that Barrios gets nervous. He's never been in against a legend, fought Keith Thurman, and Keith Thurman beat Mario Barrios. So, in that way, Pacquiao should be able to do it too, right? But it's all about, like I said, the age. The age is the biggest problem. Will Pacquiao's legs be able to move, the way they did 10 years ago? Probably not. But if he can turn it back for just this one fight and then end up retiring, I feel like now's the time to do it. He has to bring out everything he's got to pull off this win against Mario Barrios, or else there's a chance that, you know, he loses to Barrios. But I think Pacquiao can do it. It's all about the conditioning and staying in shape, not overtraining, and making sure his body is ready to, you know, go to war come July 19th. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys on the next Nabs boxing video. Peace.